Well, here we are again, Steve and George's garage. We've got another project going. What we did is I drug up this 88 YZ-250. It's part 88, part 89, got a 91 front end on it. Cleaned it up. It was one of those backyard deals. Set out in somebody's backyard for 8-10 years, whatever. So I brought it home, cleaned it all up, pulled the top end off of it, had it bored, put in a new YZ piston, new top end gasket set, put it all together, and we thought she'd be good to go. Well, me and Steve loaded it up one day and took it out with the other bikes, and we rode it. Steve comes back and says it's got issues. So I started it up and rode it. Yeah, it's definitely got issues. So we found 3 or 4 things wrong with it we didn't like. One of them was the throttle here. When you turn it, look how slow it returns. That's a little scary. So what I'm going to do about that is I'm going to I've already cleaned this carburetor and everything out, but since it's got issues, I'm going to take the top of the carburetor right here back off, clean the slide real good, make sure it ain't got no oil or grime on it, clean it up, probably put some thin oil on it. There's a spring on top of the slide. I'll stretch that spring out and make sure it snaps back, and then I'll go up here to the top, and I'm going to take this throttle assembly all apart. While I got it apart, I'll grab the cable end, pull the cable out, make sure it snaps back. If that works fine there, I'm going to go ahead and clean up the twist throttle, make sure it's all free, no dirt or grime between the handlebars and it, clean all that up and oil it, and see if we solve that problem. Another problem we had is something we should have knew about, but we didn't. It was detonating on the top end. A little louder than a ping. So we both knew not to ride it much. Got it home, did a little research, went to YZ's website, and anytime you bore one of these newer bikes, so I'll say newer bike, but it's an 88, anything that you bore with a power valve in it, you should go ahead and relieve the power valve a little bit, modify it or whatever. That's what they tell you. Well, I didn't know that, and power valve wasn't in the barrel. So what I did is I could actually see the power valve where it was nicking. So I took this little die grinder with a flapper wheel on it, and I started massaging the power valve. Well, right here in these cupped areas, down here on the low side, I can see a little indentation on this side, a little indentation on that side, where the piston may have touched it. So we took that flapper wheel and I polished this all out and got rid of the nicks and went a little more. So I got it looking real good. After I got it all polished out, I took some real fine, like 600 wetter dry, and sanded it, and I took it over to my buffing wheel and I buffed it all out. So it should work cherry. Another thing that I noticed is on this power valve linkage, the way this works is when this gear is spun off the crank, it's got a spring underneath there with a fork in it. The faster the motor spins, it'll actually lift and raise the shaft here. This will raise up the faster the motor goes and go down when you come back to an idle. What that does is it turns. That power valve will be sitting in there like that. When it comes to an idle, it'll make that exhaust port a little bit smaller. When you get up on the pipe, it'll open it up and let that exhaust run out. I went online. You're going to find out that Yamaha doesn't always do the same thing year to year. This arm is actually off in 87. This motor is a 91, and I was noticing things here on the end that is different. And what I'm saying about different is this arm is off of a 91. And if you look at it, there's a difference in the ends here. This one has a spring and stuff on the back side of it, where the older one didn't. Right? But well, obviously Yamaha or somebody down the line has put an older linkage arm or whatever in it. And then I'm noticing a notch out here, and I'm thinking, well, maybe that's where a spring goes. Well, I went online, and on this model there is no spring. And what that notch is for is if you look in the power valve hole here, you're going to see a little hole right in here. And what that little hole back in there is for is you put a dowel. Slide your little dowel in there, and it lines up on that little notch right there. So that's for alignment. You have over on this side, you're going to have two little nylocks, one here and one there that goes on the power valve. You loosen them two nuts up, you put your dowel through there, get all the alignment right, then you tighten up them two nuts and take your dowel back out. Should be good to go. We'll find out when I get it started up and running. I'm going to leave the little cover right here. I'll leave that cover off, rev it up a few times, make sure that that valve's opening and closing. If not, we'll have to go another way and say something's wrong. Like I said, we didn't know better, put a new piston in it. Power valve was an issue. We're going to try to solve that. That linkage, I don't know that it was adjusted right, but we're going to go ahead and get it aligned up, get it hooked up right. Like I said, we both agreed that the throttle was a little stiff. We're going to get that figured out. And I didn't like the brake pedal. Felt a little high to me, so we're going to come down here and where the brake pedal hooks up to it, we're going to loosen the nut, let it come up on the slave cylinder a little higher and tighten it down and see if I can get this pedal. It's going to sit in there like that. Let me turn it around again. Brake pedal sits in here like that. It used to be a little high. Well, what we're after is getting it down to where you can ride it comfortably. So we're going to readjust that, get all these issues ironed out. We'll go from there. Another issue we had is we both rode it, and when I followed Steve, I said, man, it's smoking a lot. Well, when we got it back to camp, we noticed that black oil coming out the tailpipe. So we think there's issues there. So what I've done is, usually if you got the seal out that's behind the mag on the other side, it'll suck air. You'll run lean, it won't idle back right. You'll have carburetor problems, or it'll seem like carburetor problems, but really what you're doing is sucking air. On this side, if you're getting a lot of smoke and black oil out the tailpipe, is probably what they call the wet side. And what you got to do is pull this side of the motor off. That's why it's opened. You're going to have to go ahead and remove your clutch drum, get everything out of there, and then right here you're going to have to take an impact or something and get that big nut on, get it off, because it's Loctited from the factory. So we got that off, cleaned the splines, cleaned the nut out, and I went ahead and replaced the main seal in behind there, put that back together. So get these issues ironed out and get her buttoned up. In the next video we're going to fire her up for you, and we're going to see if we can find anything else wrong with this bike. Kind of a fun little project, but we'll let you see it when it's done.